Yeah, this is gonna come out of left field probably to you guys. Not really for me though, right now. Considering, you should probably watch that video about me so that you can understand a little bit more. But I feel like often this is the whole situation with me and my gender, I guess you could say dysphoria or whatever, is this. What's the weirdest part about it is this. I constantly have always known what I am, okay? I've always known that I was more a guy than a girl. Let's not pussyfoot around the shit, honestly. Um, honestly, I'm just basically a guy, honestly, and I've always known that. Like when I was a 5-year-old, I always thought I was more a boy, not more a boy. I don't really think I thought boy or girl. I just thought I fit more with these people, more so. And I think honestly, it's weird because I've always had it where people always seem to associate me more with the masculine side and feminine side. And what would be weird about that is this. Now, if I went around and said that I align more with um, my male identity, my male essence, then people have an issue with that. And I never understood that. Like, if you can recognize that I am a masculine person, and, when it comes to who I am outside of my physical female self or whatever, um, then why would it be wrong for me to admit that if you can see it and I can see it? I never understood that. Like, people always have an issue, like, especially like this. Like, people who don't know me, for one, might act like they would think, like, they might know that I'm more masculine and might point it out as like an insult or something. And then when I point out that, yeah, that's right, you know, I'm more male than female, then they get a little uncomfortable, upset, and dissatisfied. And it's like, for me, it's annoying because it's like, okay, so since you accept me more as the more masculine side, now if I were to actually present in a more male expression, basically, then how come you would how come you would have an issue with that when you can see it yourself? I feel it. What's the problem here? I don't understand that. And I don't know. I always just felt like socially, honestly, I'd always be more accepted as a guy because my personality is just my soul, my whole self is just more male, honestly. The only thing about me that's at all, it's not really feminine, even. That part of me isn't feminine. It's like this. When I was, like I said, I don't know if I said this, but when I was 14, I actually originally said that I, no, it was when I was 12, actually. When I was 12, I realized that I was like one of those people who, feels more male inside than like on the outside, basically. Like, you know what I'm trying to say. And to me, when I was 14, that's when I kind of like looked it up. You know, I looked up how do you like transition to that nature. I was interested in it. At 12, I was kind of like, my sexuality was more like, I guess, bisexual to some extent. But then the whole thing was just that I kind of wasn't bisexual. So it was more like, um, we're not going to get into that part yet. Basically, I liked guys. So for me, I mean, like by the time I'm 13, I kind of like know I like guys. But Not like how a girl likes guys. I've never liked a guy in that way. I kind of have to reconstruct my own perception of my sexuality, kind of with guys, in order to be interested in men that are straight. It has to kind of like, I have to configure things a bit and change things around a bit and kind of like stifle my own sexuality, basically. Because I mean, like, yeah, I have a lot of different things in that quality, just like a lot of other different things are just different with me and other women. And I mean, like, this is the thing for me with like transgender people. I always notice they say society treats them like gender, like the gender they're born, right? For me, I've never had that happen. Like, I've always felt like people always treated me more like, for example, like with females. Um, I never felt like I was treated like another woman. I just never am. Like, they know I'm not a male, like a biological male, but I've never been treated like the woman. And you can tell this because, like, you know how an alpha female is? And how the females congregate around the alpha female and all that stuff. Um, in a social sense of a lot of females, I do not congregate. I do not even have anything to do with them. They don't really even include me in their, social cliques or groups, basically. It's never been that way for me. It's always been like I'm kind of like on the outside looking in kind of thing. More like the loner, honestly. And I mean, honestly, that's been since I was 8 or 9. This is what I mean. People always say, like, with transgender people, that they were accepted for being the female sex they were born or the male sex they were born. For me, it's not quite like that. It really isn't. I've always been like, where, like, even when I was a kid, for example. Now, in kindergarten was different. I could go either way, honestly, but honestly, personally, I always knew what I was, so I always went with boys more often. But, like, with people who are, when I was, like, a little older, I don't even mean, like, in the middle school yet. Um, as young as that, I still was, like, excluded from other females. Females, I don't know, they just know what they are, really, it seems like more so, and they socialize with each other in a certain way, and I do not, really. And it's not just women. I mean, men. When I got older, men kind of, I don't know. Like, sometimes it depends on the situation, but many of the time, I've felt like men don't really treat me like them either. Honestly, but what I don't understand is this. Okay, if I'm not treated like a woman to women or men, then why? Like, I don't even feel like a woman. So why am I living like this? And I guess you would ask me why I would do this, but it's just like every time I've ever tried to transition, it's always been hell. Like, people would get more angry than normal, it seems like. And it's weird because it's like, well, if you yourselves act like I'm not, like other women, then why is it such a shock for me to be a man? I don't know. It's just like weird to me. But yeah, I don't know. And another thing is just that for me, I just don't understand with like women. I don't understand like womanhood, honestly. I don't understand anything about womanhood. And I mean, like, everything about womanhood is just like, it's like it's not about me. It has nothing to do with me at this point, in my opinion. Like I've kind of like tried to like ignore the things that aren't associated with me and try to, you know, only take what I like about being a woman, which is really nothing. And I don't know, it's just like annoying after a while. Like I'm like at this point where I'm like, why have I even lived this long as a woman? Like really, seriously, why have I lived this long as a woman? There's really no point in doing this. Like honestly, and this is the thing, like I think a big portion of things is one thing that I do not. And then they'll say like society sees them as the gender they don't want to be, and it's like for me, it's never really like that. That's not really my problem. Like it's always been like, well, one, I don't accept my own womanhood. So I mean, like, I don't really care that if others do or not, really. And I don't know. It's like I kind of feel like most of the time, like women, like don't really accept me as for my womanhood because I don't accept my womanhood. Basically, I just kind of like am at this point where I, I just went through female puberty, and I have female genitals, and like I grew up. So it's not like anything more than that to me. It's just like, well, that's it. I don't know. But sometimes my problem is like I think the main reason why I've stayed a woman so long is just because it's like, why would I like? It's kind of like I like to go against the grain sometimes. So like when someone says like a woman should be this or that or and so forth, it's kind of like to me like it's like, well, really? Okay, so if that's the case, then I'm gonna show you kind of like situation. You know. But at the same time, I don't know, it's just like I kind of just feel like so many different things. Like when I like for one watch share like different videos on YouTube and things of that nature. And women will talk about different experiences. And I'm always like, well, wow, they have different experiences than me, one. And then also, like, they see things a little differently than I do, many of the time. And I kind of like feel like it plays a part in me just always being reminded that I'm not like them. I'm just built like them, basically. But like I said, going back to what I was saying, I just never understood why it's such a shock to some people. Because sometimes people act so shocked and weirded out that I don't really see myself as a woman and that I would rather be a man. And also, what I never understand is with men, honestly, about this, because sometimes I'm like, now, if you were in my situation, since we're mentally very similar, why wouldn't you be of the same mindset. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't want to be a woman either. So then why are you shocked when someone doesn't want to be a woman who's similar to you? You know what I mean? Like, to me, that doesn't make any sense, bro. Oh, I hate this song. Dang it. Wait one sec. Yeah, this is just a commercial. I apologize. Anyway, and then there was like one point, like I said, with the whole thing with me being 14 and things of that nature, when I really tried to consider transitioning and things of that nature, um, there was a whole part with bisexuality. That was the main reason why I didn't want to transition was because I always felt like, my dating life would be a mess, honestly. But then I'm like, kind of like, well, trying to date straight men is a mess, honestly. It is. I don't really like dating straight men. I don't. I hate dating straight men. Honestly, that's why I don't really do dating with them because we're like we're like basically people who are like consumers in a store who like the same type of food but are total different people, basically. Like, you would think you could get along on one issue, but you really don't because you're using the same ingredients and the same food for a whole different meal, basically. And that's how I feel when I'm dating straight men, basically. Like, it just doesn't really work too well. Now, what would that leave me with? Who knows? But I'm just saying, as it is right now, I kind of just like, I hate it. It's like annoying to me. I don't really have any interest in, really being with men in that way, honestly. But point of the matter was, like I said, when I was 14, I didn't like the fact that my sexuality was what it was, basically. And another reason was because of my some of the things I looked up online, basically. So I was looking up stuff about like um, the mechanics of the whole situation, transitioning, right? So for me, it was like I just never really liked the reassignment surgery and things of that nature. It was a little bit um I heard stories, horror stories that just were not good at all. They were just like, oh my god, but like not good to me. And I just wasn't really interested in going through that whole route. Then I would hear like horror stories like when I got older too that were worse. Um, like this one guy who committed suicide he um because he went through his whole transition and then there was a problem with the last surgery and he felt like he was um like said I think he said he felt like he was a monster or something like that and didn't want to be that, wanted to be a man or whatever. And I don't know, that story kind of spoke out to me kind of personally, like it's one thing for me. But yeah. Anyway, so for me, when I was like a teen, basically, I didn't really like I didn't really like the options I had. So I kind of like felt like maybe I shouldn't, transition, things of that nature. But it would always be like for me, in the past like 10, 12, 13 years. Oh, hi, pretty brown girl. How are you doing? Yeah, I'm just doing a video. This one, if you haven't watched my video about, what's it called? About me, I think. 15 minutes into it, it kind of like explains how I generally identify. This is more into my gender identity and things of that nature. Anyway, well, yeah, I was just getting more into like my gender. I don't know if you're caught up because I said that actually a second ago, but anyway, I was just talking more about my gender identity and things of that issue basically. But anyway, like for me, it was kind of like I have always felt like when I would try to be more feminine, I guess, or be more just like okay with my female sex. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see all your comments. I don't get it. Bisexual men are usually super feminine. I wouldn't actually get with a guy that's bisexual unless he mostly gets with girls. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just talking about my I was talking about my gender identity, not about me as I am now. Generally right now I date straight men. But honestly, in my experience with straight men, it's kind of like I said, like it's kind of like we like the same thing, but for different purposes, basically. And that goes back to what I was saying about my sexuality and my gender identity, and things of that nature. Like I said, since I was like about 5, I've always kind of known I I always sided with males generally. Like when I before I was 12, I knew that I knew that I was like one of the boys, basically, when I was like 5. And then when I was like into a more female setting with a whole bunch of females, I kind of was like the type who did not associate basically with all the females. I would say, like, basically, for example, the whole group was female, right? And I kind of the type to only be around some like some females who are like tomboys sometimes, but generally no, none really. I mean, I spent 2 years around just mainly girls in one setting, and it totally blew up, honestly, because it wasn't because of the end part of the situation, which did turn out too well. It was like 9 or 10 at this point. But it was like before then, I was kind of like just not associated with any of these people. And you could see in different settings with male children, I was totally fine. I was well acquainted with them, friends, things of that nature. But with girls, it was just kind of like I had a hard time socializing with them. At about like 12, I kind of realized what was going on. And I kind of knew that I was like basically one of those people who was I knew that I was basically like a person who was biologically female, but more like a male, you know, mismatch in gender and sex. things of that nature. And like back then, it was kind of like I kind of just knew that part of me by 12, but I didn't really know much else. So then, like, I was actually considering like transitioning, like about 14. I looked into it, things of that nature. Decided not to, mainly because of the. I just wasn't sure if they could actually do everything I wanted them to do, basically. And it was just like, for those reasons, I kind of just was like, I kind of was like, maybe not. And then on top of it, I felt like because of my sexuality, that I couldn't I couldn't really fit as a guy, basically, because I like guys and I don't really like girls. I don't like girls. Um, so basically, the point was that I was like, well, when I was a kid and when I was a teen and I was in my early 20s, I kind of felt like my my dating life would be better as a woman, right? And I kind of was like I said, in my experience, I just don't feel it really is. Like I said, with because it's like I said, I'm sexually attracted to men that are straight, but I'm not really into them really that way. Like the reason I'm into them is a whole different thing than what they're into, basically, and it just works out really weird, basically for me. I don't know. And anyway, that's all I'm saying there. That's what I was saying when I was saying about straight men and my dating life and all that stuff. Anyway, so when I was like 14, it was just like after that point, I tried harder to be like more feminine, I guess you could say, and be more like on the more acceptable side of things, you know. And it would always feel like people would always kind of like get upset at me for trying to be more of the acceptable feminine side of things. It would always seem like. And for me, it was just be like, so I tried all this much, and then you get upset at me for being a way I don't even want to be. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of like that's what I was saying. Where like with being transgender and things of that nature, a lot of the time I notice a lot of transgender people say, like, when they live as their biological sex, that people accept them as that sex. I never really felt that, though. I've never felt like I was accepted, honestly. I just felt like people kind of were like, you better be that way, but we don't like you that way either, kind of like thing. Like, if I was to be as a guy, I don't know. Like, would there be a problem if they knew my history? I know it would be, of course, because some people don't like transgender people. But I mean, like, I've always felt like I got more hell for being feminine than actually being masculine. And I mean, like, I've heard some people always like talk about how a woman's supposed to be more feminine and how it works well for them and everything. For me, it's never worked well for me to be feminine. I mean, if I were to try and be all feminine and stuff, what? That leaves me open and vulnerable for someone to just do me in. Like, seriously, that's what would happen, honestly. I mean, I think I probably tried that maybe 15, 16, learned better, and was like, I don't want to do that anyway. So it's like not my nature, you know? And so that's why for me, it's kind of like, I don't know, I've come to this point where it's just kind of like, now, why am I doing this? Like, why am I trying to be a woman in all this when I mean like what's the benefit? You know what I mean? I constantly feel that way. Like I always have to justify why you know, because I don't want to be. And I feel like socially, I don't feel like people really like me being a woman either, honestly.
And the best part, we're so much easier to maneuver than a broom or a vacuum. Chairs and under the couch, right?
And like as far as like certain parts of me, like as far as the whole thing about accepting my sexuality, which has been a big problem for me, is accepting my sexuality. Because as a woman, I don't have to accept my sexuality. It's just there. I mean, what straight woman has to accept being straight? Like, that doesn't really have to happen because, I mean, like, if you're straight, it's kind of like expected. So there's no shock here, you know? When you kind of flip things around, it's a whole big problem, especially when the marginalized side of the community hates you. You know, it's kind of like, you know, you have it 2 times worse than the one who has it bad, basically. And so, I mean, like, when I was younger, I just couldn't put up with something like that, especially without a support system. Like, that was just like, well, why would I do that to myself? Kind of like thing. Like, I'm just looking for trouble at that point, you know? But honestly, like, at this point, I'm kind of like, just like, I really want to. I have had some experiences that were kind of like, oh God, that was just really fucked up just recently. And it was just like, I'm kind of like, I'm, for right now, just kind of like a little done. Nothing like, it's not like specifically anything against men in general. Like, they didn't really do anything to me. But it's kind of like something that happened in result of being with a man or whatever. It's just like, I'm kind of like done at this point. And it's like, you know, like for me personally, like with being a woman, it's kind of like every aspect of womanhood makes me want to cringe, honestly. Everything about it just makes me just like, it's not that I don't like women either. It's like, they're cool. There's nothing against women. It's just like, kind of like, personally for me, it's always like, this doesn't feel right. It's always like things are always backwards, kind of like it's not really meant for me, really. And honestly, it's kind of like, for me, I kind of just feel like, honestly, with like, as far as like men and women, and like the yin and yang thing, just never really fit for me. It was just always like, I don't know, it's something I can't really relate to. And it always seems like it turns out like, where for me personally, I feel like generally, like straight men generally don't seem to understand me that well, honestly. Like, this is exactly why I think I use them for sex, because I always feel like emotionally, you just won't ever understand anything about me or anything that's going on here. So it's always like it's a sexual thing. And then that's another thing, is that a lot of straight men always seem really weird to me because it's like they some of them one, I mean, like, just like any man has low self-esteem. So then sometimes they think that someone doesn't want them. Sometimes it also seems like the whole idea that men are more like into like the physical side of relationship than women are, things like that, kind of like bothers me in a sense. Oh shit. Oh, okay. I have a reminder. I gotta go in like 7 minutes for my Postmates.
Chris Kale from Five Finger Death Punch. If you're looking for more great music, check out Today's Hard Rock only on
Anyway, where was I? I don't understand though. What exactly is good about being a woman? Like, to me, I don't understand it. I don't see what's good about being a woman at all. To me, it's just like all being a woman is to me is just, like I said, going through female puberty and having a vagina. That's it. And of course, things I don't like, but that's kind of like connected to puberty, basically. But only thing that's good is, like I said, like two things that I kind of like cited with being a woman was the whole point of like asexuality. Asexuality is a major point because, like I said, I never really wanted to accept it. But secondarily, it's kind of like was that for me, a lot of the time, sorry, I'm still just looking at my time. Sorry, it's just that I kind of wanted one thing about being a woman. And that one thing it just completely blew up in my face. And I only wanted it because like my father wanted it as well. So it's obviously not really like that I like being a woman. It's just the only way for me, basically. And like, some people um like some people think that wanting certain things, um like for example, wanting um wanting to nurture or something like that, things of that nature is a feminine trait. But some people are actually not naturally like um nurturers, or some people aren't really made for like, you know having children or things of that nature. But there's still, like, for example, my mother she's mostly feminine, I would say. And she like never really wanted children, and wasn't like, she wasn't not nurturing, she just never really wanted children, basically. Um Children of her own, at least. And for me, it was just like my father was quite the opposite, but obviously he's a guy. And for me, it was kind of like similar to that. But anyway, like at this point, it's kind of like I just don't find anything good. Even the things I thought were good about being a woman are just like I don't even think are good. I think a major part of it is the fact that one, I feel like I'm not really accepted, you know, as a woman. And then secondarily, it's like I don't really feel I want to be a part of it. So then I'm like, why am I alone? You know? And then like I think, like I said, it being tied into the fact of not being accepted kind of makes it like, well, if I could eat a win, it would be a miracle, baby. Would you like help? I'm gonna have to go. I'm sorry. I'll be back. Kind of feel like socially, society kind of has always treated me and taught me this that I wasn't like other girls. But at the same time, it was always like for me, I've always been treated like I'm not one of the other girls, but kind of like, well, you if you're going to be one of the girls, you're going to be put below the other girls just because you're more masculine. And even if I was more feminine and tried to be as feminine as I could, it would still not work. And for me, it's just like, well, then what's the point? I don't understand it. It's like, well, if I'm not really acceptable as a woman, and I don't even want to be here, then what was the whole point? You know? This is just my whole thing. It's just like, I don't understand it, really. Like, younger, like I was maybe like, for example, like 22, I think, and I was trying a bit to transition a bit, and it would be like, because I go through these periods where I want to transition, and then I kind of like decide not to because of this or that or this or whatever, you know. And that was just one of the times that, I was trying to, at least dress a little bit more masculine. And I would always get a lot more help for just dressing a little bit more masculine. And it's always been like that, like where like you're supposed to be this, but we're gonna castigate you for being this. Like, what? So weird. And it's like, for me, I kind of feel like, well, you can't win no matter what, really. So why not just do what makes you at least happy? And for me, I mean, like, I would feel more happy as a guy. I feel like, honestly, I could claim my image. I could accept my image. You know what I mean? Like, I have always known that I was beautiful. And I have always liked how I look. That's just how it is. And honestly, for me, it's kind of like been like, I like to dress. I like to dress up like a doll, kind of like thing, because I like to look. But it's not a personal thing. It's an image thing, and then it's like I can't really claim her. Really, it's kind of like just like an image. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's like it's always like two sides to me, basically. I hate my. I just feel like just kind of like out there. You know, she's not really anyone that I align with, really. Listen, hopefully, well, anyway, but I just like most of the don't really appreciate that I try to be more, I guess, feminine because they can see like through it, kind of, because it's like not genuine. And it isn't genuine, honestly. But it's like, well, if I was now, how would you feel about that? You know what I mean? Now I know how I would feel about that. I would feel good about that. But, like it's always like this thing where like how true of a man can I be? And when I say how true of a man, if you know anything about me, what being a man is, it's not about shit, okay? It's not about like what you did or whatever. Like to me, those things, a man can do anything and a woman can do anything. That's just how I've always seen it. That's my blindness about me. It's just that I don't really see women as doing anything in particular that men can't do. And men do anything in particular that women can't do. Like in any aspect. So that's me. It's not about that. It's about physicality. You know, how much can I convince myself that I am a guy? And I don't know. I've always been unconvinced, honestly. And the reason why is just the outward physicality of the matter. It's just like, to me, I'm like, I can't see it enough because it's like, oh, I'm too short. Oh, the whole big part of why I have dysphoria. That I have bottom dysphoria. I don't really have much other dysphoria, honestly. Because if I don't wear makeup and if I shave my head, um, I'm just like, if I bind my breasts, because my breasts are big, but if I bind my body shape, my face are pretty androgynous, honestly. They're, it's kind of like, well, I would say my face isn't masculine. My face is kind of like in between, honestly. It's not very masculine. I do have a lot of like problems with my lips. My lips are too full, but because I try to like pass as a guy more so, it would always be like I would try and keep lips thinner. It's hard to try and make them thinner. They're just naturally bigger. But like I really like I'm probably I guess on the less feminine side. I guess you could say neutral to feminine or something. But my body is pretty masculine. I'm just small. And then like I said, I have like my issues. I always didn't have to very well. And it's not about passing to other people, even, really. It's like passing to me. Like, if I look in the mirror nude, am I going to see a girl or am I going to see a guy? And that's the thing about, like, people who are transgender. So it's like, they seem to always seem like they are concerned more about what the outward side shoots in us. But it's like, a mask, mask, you know, or woman, you know. There's um, aesthetics that people can use to look more male or female, things of that nature. I'm not saying a little mask or leather mask or anything, but anyway, um, but you could, you know, make your face, but that is it's not going to change every time you go to the bathroom. It's not going to change if you look at yourself in the mirror. You can't look at yourself in the mirror while you're nude, and you know how you really feel deep down, like you're kind of like you're But yeah, I'm tired and done with being a woman because it's just like too much problems, really. And all for what? Why am I putting up with all of this when nobody wants me to be a woman? I don't want to be a woman. Nobody wants me to be a woman. So why am I being a woman? Like I could just be a guy and be completely comfortable with myself. But I don't know. It's like trying to commit to the transition and then I commit to transitioning. It's a lot tougher, honestly, than just admitting and knowing that you're transgender, and knowing that you are mentally male as opposed to female. Like, I know this about me, and I've always known this, but it's always been like, now what do you want to do about it? And at this point, admitting that I'm probably going to transition point, not too far in the future, probably. Like, I always thought maybe I'll have children, and then after all that, I'll pull a Bruce Jenner, you know. And nah, I don't think so. Like pregnancy, honestly. Like, I don't like. This goes back down to some things. I don't like my. Like, I don't like. When I was 13, I only liked really guys who were feminine, right? Now, was there a reason for that? Yes. This goes all the way back to the whole problem. Now, this problem has been going on since I was like 5, because when I was like 5, maybe even younger than that, when I was like 10 to 12, I always had a problem basically that got worse from when I was 5. So when I was 5, I didn't like the fact that I was female. But I never really knew that I didn't like it. I just knew that things were odd to me. This is why, for me, I kind of think that women um, look odd to me down there, basically. And when I was like 10 through 12, I kind of like got to this point where I kind of realized how weird women were to me in my head. Now, I'm not saying women are weird, but I'm saying for me, they're weird to me. Like, for me, like, as a woman, it's weird. That's what I'm trying to say. I think people might not understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying other women are weird. Actually, when I was about 12, I was kind of like, I was kind of bisexual to some extent. So, I mean, like, I didn't think, I just thought for me, it was odd, basically. So, anyway, yeah, so basically around this age, from 5 to like 13, things got worse when it came to those issues. And basically, I always put this out of my mind, honestly. Because it's like, it's a thing that's like, well, what can I do about it, you know? And in general, it's like, what can I do about it, you know? Not really anything. So I kind of like put it out of my mind. But point of the matter is, I do not want to, I think, I don't really want to I don't want to get pregnant. I want to have children. I don't want any of that kind of situation, basically. So for me, it's kind of like um, I don't really have any reason or to think of like doing a whole Bruce like I was saying originally. I don't really want to have a family of that nature, so it's kind of like that's not even anything that I want anymore, really. But yeah, it's just like back to what I was saying originally. My whole point of actually feeling like I'm convinced enough to be a guy, and I don't know. It's just like I don't know if I'll ever be a convincing guy, really. For me personally, like I think I could pass probably to people as a guy, maybe I guess. Honestly, when I see men, I guess you could say that they're men who are 5'1", 5'2", 5', 5'3", maybe even 5'4". Um, I don't tend to think that they are male. I tend to think they are females. Like I'm always like, well, we don't know if you're really male. You could be biologically female. So for me, I mean, like in my head, I always think like if I'm a short guy, like that short. I'm not saying 5'6", but I'm saying like as short as I am. Like I kind of feel like, yeah, I don't think it would really work, at least in my eyes. But like I said, more than that, like socially, because I don't really care socially all that much. It's just like, say for example, I had a female passing face, but my body was all male. I mean, completely male, by the way. I mean, everything like guys. It would kind of be like that would be more accepting to me because even if people didn't believe I was a guy, it wouldn't really matter because when I get undressed, I would be totally fine. That's where your sex is anyway, not on your face. And I mean, I would feel more like, a regular guy basically at that point. But I don't know, like I just feel like generally like yeah. I feel like I'm getting closer to the idea of transitioning at least than I was before. And I always get closer and I get closer and I get closer. The more I realize how I'm not like other women, the more I feel like, oh, that's different. Maybe I need to reconsider. And then I keep thinking maybe I need to reconsider. In this last situation, it's kind of like, oh God, maybe I really do need to reconsider this shit. Like, I don't know. I guess I had too much of a dose of my own dysphoria at this point, and I just kind of feel like I have had way too much um, problems to really enjoy or really ignore that I am a woman at this point. Like, usually I can just ignore that I'm a woman. But when things like that happen, it is impossible to ignore that you're a woman. And it's just, like, annoying to me because it's like, what am I supposed to do when I feel like I can't really be anything other than what I am. I can't really ignore that I'm mentally male. That's always been the case. And I think maybe, honestly, what's helped me stay more feminine or more like a woman so long. Maybe it's because of the whole fact that people don't associate me with women so much and so hard. And when they don't, it kind of like helps me not feel so dysphoric, I guess you could say. Because some things that people say women are treated in a certain way on certain aspects of life would really irk me. It would just totally grind my gears, basically. Because, like, you're reminding me of things that I don't want to be reminded at the end of the day. And, like, I think it's kind of like helped me to cope with being a woman, even though I don't want to be, you know. But at this point, I think maybe I can't cope anymore. Maybe I can't cope with being a woman. Because I mean, like, too many things happen that remind you that you are one. And I mean, like, as long as that's an open option in life to happen again, I could always end up being reminded I'm a woman and being driven crazy, basically, because I am being reminded of something that I basically feel no association with. So, yeah, that's just basically all my thoughts on that. I'm just generally tired of being alone. Yeah, I'm gonna have to make some decisions on it because this is really no way to live right now. I mean, honestly, I think because I am a stronger person, I've always put up with it a lot better than a lot of other people who are transgender put up with it. And so that's why for me, I've never really felt um, extremely depressed about it. Up until lately, I guess you could say I felt depressed, but not extremely depressed, like dangerously. Just like, oh God, that was fucking hell. I can't, yeah, like I can't do this shit anymore, like kind of thing. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say on that. Oh, I saw some comments. Oh, those are all pretty brown girl. Oh yeah, I would generally prefer someone who, as a woman, I would prefer someone who preferred females. But honestly, for me, in my past, I really don't pay attention. Like sometimes to me, I think that people are more is with me. It's just that the sexuality of me matters more so than sexuality isn't like a woman's. Honestly, um, I've talked about it before. Sometimes I talk to bisexual women, and I would talk to. I talk often about this to FTM transsexuals often, like because we have similar sexualities, basically. Because I'm basically the same thing, pre transition, basically. So a lot of the time they might say like how they felt before they transitioned. I can relate many of the time, but for me, it's just like I constantly have like a whole situation where my sexuality entwines with its dysphoria, basically. So for me, I don't really like. I don't like straight sex. There's that whole part of it, um, and so that's just this like like the little icing on the cake that I kind of ignore. And there's other things like I just don't like plenty of other things like with relationships and things of that nature that kind of mess me over because it's like the way I go at guys, one is just because I don't go in the feminine sense of things. Really, honestly, I'm more so like the type that will go after a man. Like at this point in life with dating, I've kind of like gotten to this point where I kind of just like don't really talk much. Really, like quiet, let the guy talk more. Because if you do, you're gonna mess the shit up. Really, kind of situation. Um, and so there's just different parts to this. Like it's not just like the sex. I kind of am like, well, I don't like straight sex, but hey, like I can just do it to get off, kind of thing. But it's not like really something I really like, because like I said, my dysphoria is right in there with my sexuality, so it's like they go to hand in hand, basically. And that might be actually why, for me, I did not have sex for a long time. I was younger because, like, I like men. Like I said, I like men, and that's why, for me, in part, I've always been more of the type that actually would rather. I would rather go down on a guy than actually have sex with him. And the reason why is because I don't like my genitals, basically. So it's like it freaks me out when we're having sex a bit. But then at the same time, I'm kind of like putting it out of my head. But anyway, um, but it's just one side of it. But point of the matter was what you were saying on relationships and things of that nature. It's just like, um, yeah, it's just like it doesn't get along really well that way because for me, it's like who's straight wants someone with an essence that is feminine and female. Now I can just be nothing and not really have really any essence, or I could have more of a masculine essence. I don't have a feminine essence, so I don't really understand. Like for me, it's always like I just want you more so to be attracted to body really than me as a person because if you're really attracted to me, if you really get to it's going to be a problem because you want something that I really can't be, you know? And I guess I could feel a little insecure about that, but I never really did because it's always been like, I never really wanted to be that female entity that men want, really. It's always like, well, I cannot do that for you, and you can go do that somewhere else, you know, kind of thing. But like with that's why for me, I guess that's why I generally prefer more sexual stuff than emotional connection, you know. And I mean, like that's why for me, I'm pretty sure I do have an emotional attraction to people. It's just that I've never really been emotionally attracted to anyone who was a straight man, honestly. Um, and I've just generally not been attracted to him, really, honestly, emotionally. Um, I tend to be more attracted to feminine people, not female people. You know, there's a difference. That's why I said when I was a child, I knew right on what I was attracted to. But yeah, that's basically all I'm going to say on this. I think it's hard for people to understand because, like, I am not a straight trans man. I'm not straight trans woman. I'm not a gay man, cis gay man. So what I am is so confusing to people that when I was younger, when I went to the LGBT community, they never understood me. So I always felt that's why I always preferred to be a straight woman because it was just easier. So that's all I have to say. Thanks for listening. Bye. Head hurts.